We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, Emily. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparations perspective, bringing you those frequent hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. Hi, ScrewTube. Hi, Facebook. Hi, Twitter. Welcome, family. I know it was short notice. I know we might be small tonight, but I am certain. I see you, Yaira, my faithful co-host in the chat. It's last minute, y'all. Freeman life is happening. I meant to get home earlier to build this show out because I have an esteemed guest here today. I'm super, super excited about what California has ignited all throughout the country. And we need all hands on deck because we're coming up off this bottom. Right, family? We are coming up off this bottom. It is time to trade places. We done held this L for 500 years, and the ancestors won't let us rest until we get it done. Okay? And so I'm not going to belabor because I know y'all got these notices. Y'all just got these notices. I just jumped in makeup and a top and told Trahern it's time to go. Y'all know how it is. Freeman life is happening. Yes, it is. I had to go get Genesis from track what I thought was 4. I get over there. They're not done till 5. Then her sister friend, Mama, hadn't showed up. So we had to wait with her. I had to feed them in the meantime because I had no time to cook. Y'all know how it goes. But the show must what? Go on. So without further ado, family, I'm not going to belabor and keep him in the lobby too long. He is on East Coast gearing up for St. Paul City's reparations hearing, day one. What's up, Derek? I see you, fam. Tomorrow, okay? He's got to get some shut-eye because it's about to go down. Without further ado, introducing Mr. Trahern Cruz, ladies and gentlemen. Stand by. Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is.
Thank you so much for having me here today on the Great Reparations Perspective.
I am so excited to have you, sir. Thank you so much for obliging me in the 11th hour. I appreciate you so much.
Anytime.
It's a lot.
Anytime.
It's a lot, but I told you when I'm on the beach power walking, I get all this creative juices flowing because I could have asked you this a couple days ago and it didn't dawn on me. Christ didn't speak. My inner Christ didn't speak up till I was out here getting it in. And I thought, I need Trahern on here. Hi, DJ PD News. I see you, family. Please. First, let's start. I'm so ecstatic when I got your text. The St. Paul, this is Minnesota, right?
Yes. Home of George Floyd.
Woo! Did y'all hear this? Home of George Floyd is having the reparations hearings. Mr. Floyd, your execution was not in vain. We are going to make much to do about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Please introduce yourself to my audience. We go way back. Like,
yes, we do. Real back.
Like
back
the beginning.
The beginning of the current reparations movement that is gaining traction here in the United States. I'm Trahern Cruz. I'm a BLM Minnesota activist. Our chapter led the George Floyd rebellion or uprising here in Minnesota. But I'm also a reparationist too, and I was the co-chair of the St. Paul Recovery Act Steering Committee. And the steering committee did the grassroots work of writing resolution 2177 that apologized for holding Dred Scott and military slavery at Fort Snelling, apologized for the destruction of the Rondo community via the I-94 freeway, and apologized for St. Paul's role in institutional racism against its Black residents, and committed to building generational wealth for the American descendants of chattel slavery who reside in the city of St. Paul. And that passed January 13th, 2021. And then it set up a limited term legislative advisory committee, which I had the honor of co-convening, which created the St. Paul Recovery Act ordinance, which will become will change the city codes in St. Paul's government to create a permanent reparations committee. And that will make short-term, medium and long-term recommendations, but we'll also be looking at budgets, this year's budget and future budgets, and making sure that the American descendants of chattel slavery are getting their fair share.
Oh my goodness. Well, give us a little bit more background about you and how did we come together to meet? I know that it was through Tara Perry.
Yes.
Out here in California when she was doing her reparations march in the nation's capital.
Yes.
That's when I was first introduced to you. But you mentioned about Black Lives Matter. Could you share with my subscribers how you differ from the Federation, the ones that are weaponizing the executions of our unarmed Black men, women, and children to line their own pockets?
Our chapter, like many other chapters in the United States that are doing the work, and this is not for me to attack the national chapter, but just the difference of our chapter, Black Lives Matter New York, Greater New York, and other chapters that aren't connected to the national chapter. So we haven't received any money from national. We just did it because Monique Kohlers-Doty is Marcus Golden's aunt, and then he was killed by the St. Paul Police Department. And before that, St. Paul would handle police brutality issues behind closed doors. And that was also around Martin Luther King Day. So after that, then we kind of start doing our own MLK marches that were a little different than how they used to be in the past, that were ran kind of, I won't say the status quo, but was just not like that. But then also I've been involved in the Green Party, and I got elected to be the chair. I was the chair of the Green Party of the United States, and I also got elected to be the chair of the Green Party of the United States Reparations Working Group. And the Green Party, point number one of the Green Party is grassroots democracy or participatory democracy. And we have a bottom-up philosophy. So that's why I started doing stuff at the local level first. So I was doing a men by men conference. And then our city council person came, and she really liked the presentation. And then I think a couple months later, Evanston passed their stuff. And then she contacted me and said, I think this is something that we can start doing here. So, but I know St. Paul, and I know if you don't talk to the people, like the elders, and if they're like, you didn't tell me about it. And if you didn't tell me about it, it's not official. And that's just how St. Paul is. So I was like, well, we need to start like a book club or do some outreach before we just start trying to pass it. So we started doing that and educating people and doing surveys. And then while we were doing that, COVID hit. Then George Floyd hit. And with COVID exposed why reparations was so important. Actually, the New England Journal of Medicine says if Black reparations were in place when COVID hit, our community would not have been impacted the way it was socially, politically, and economically. Then George Floyd happened, and then that gave us basically like a worldwide stage to talk about lineage-based reparations and still connected to police accountability too, because we knew that what happened to George Floyd wasn't just like, it was an economic issue too. He died over like $20. Also, we're in contact with his Aunt Angela Harrell, who did his family tree and found out that their great-great-grandpa Stewart was a slave, got his freedom, ended up amassing land, and then had that stolen from him too, which is a story of a lot of Black Americans. We've lost 90% of our land since the Reconstruction era. So a lot of our families have the same story as George Floyd's great-great-great-grandfather, who was a slave and then got himself out of freedom and brought land and then lost it to white supremacy and institutional racism.
Absolutely. Wow, you sound like a long-standing activist and fighter and champion of the American freedmen, and we're just eternally grateful to you.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad I get to learn with and from you guys too. It's excellent.
Well, please share with me, have you been able to give testimony at the California Reparations Task Force hearings?
Not yet, but I've been watching them, and I'm going to try to testify at the next one. But we had the privilege of having, at our first listening session, we had Camilla Moore attended ours. And so for the California Reparations Task Force to come to the St. Paul meeting and say, hey, we support this. And Friday was there too.
Yes.
We were like, wow, so that just really gave the St. Paul Reparationists, we were just super excited that California came and supported our effort. And we got to do the same for them too.
Absolutely. Well, without the national contemporary reparations grassroots movement, we would not have been able to make the strides we've made.
Exactly.
Because although the Bunch Center got about $1 million to promote our hearings, most of the folks out here in California don't even know what's going down.
Wow.
It's shameful.
Yeah, it is.
We're like on our third communications firm, and folks still don't know much about it. I see you, O.L. Griffin and Anonymous. Thank you for joining the live. Forgive me, I have to shout my people out. These are my co-hosts. They'll be chatting it up, asking questions, and
awesome.
Ready to take their marching orders. These are the workers. Okay.
Okay.
The ones in the chat, they gonna get to work and get your action items done. Like we gonna do it in real time. But yeah, so it took a whole nation of contemporary reparations grassroots movements to get involved and to call in, because it was through our streaming that most folks even learned about it.
I watched it from here.
Oh,
definitely, yeah.
Yes, indeed. So I've streamed every last one of them. My daughter did the engineering on day 2, part 2, because I had to travel. but and so that was a little wonky, but she got through it.
Hey,
Okay,
that children come through.
Okay, so I don't even understand. Why are you just now getting me the information? Because I didn't know y'all already had a meeting. So,
So we had 4 listening sessions back in April before we wrapped up the companion. So the Legislative Advisory Committee met for a year, and then we created the ordinance, and that accompanied with a companion report. And then the companion report basically showed why we made the decisions we made in the ordinance, and also took some of the community feedback and put that into the report too. So that was a really great piece. One of the major components of this is that this needs to be funded. Like seriously funded. We don't want to just be talking about reparations. We want to really do it. And we notice the state of Minnesota itself has the biggest surplus in the nation with $17.6 billion. However, Minnesota has the 3rd biggest racial wealth gap in the country after Washington, D.C. and Wisconsin. So to us, it's a no-brainer what should happen with the surplus dollars. And then, but in our report, in California may have I'm sure California does have this, all the states have it. There's American Rescue Plan funds or ARPA funds. So the city of St. Paul has $160 million in ARPA funds. And the report says some of that money, $20 million of that should be set aside, and not say what we should use it for, but just sit that aside for the reparations funds and let this next commission that's about to be seated start making recommendations on how that funding should be used, and including direct cash payments.
I love it. Okay, so is your ordinance akin to our 500-page preliminary report?
I would say some of it, but so I know when we first started, shout out to Sister Dawn Page, we would talk about that there's an executive order at the federal level that has somebody that's watching the transportation department and watching those budgets, watching the small business department and watching those budgets. So the permanency of our ordinance came up out of that thinking, where we're going to be looking at, that's why we're looking at the ARPA funds, like, yeah, we have them here in Minnesota, but we're also looking like, wow, Jackson, Mississippi has them too. And if they probably would have used it correctly, they wouldn't be having the water problem that they're having right now too. So just making sure that we're looking at the budgets, looking at what, so even now we have a new council member, and just after us talking a little bit, he recognized like, wow, well, I don't want to go in too far into it, but just like our water department, they're going to have a 2040 comprehensive plan. Now that we have this reparations component, it's like, well, you guys need to write us into that, or make sure. In the past, have we not been included in that? And if not, then what needs to happen to address that harmful actions that the city of St. Paul, the discrimination that has happened to Black residents, whether it's housing. So we have a HRA here, we have a water department, we have some new HERO and just new departments, but we have to start looking at these departments with a reparatory lens from the bottom up.
I love it. So does that mean you're going to be looking at prior budgets to see what they robbed the Black community of and demanding that they make you whole for everything they took?
And that's the approach that we definitely want to take. And so there's an organization, I think, called Pure that looked back like 16 administrations. And so we kind of already, we want to do new studies, but there's so many studies that, there might need to be one for like the next, to give us an update on COVID, but we'd rather kind of start compiling older studies. And then when you go back and look, I looked at one from Wilder, and it didn't even mention us. So I was like, this is when
wow.
Yeah, and not, I love my immigrant brothers and sisters, but they were having panels back in 2004, 2006 talking about racism, but they didn't have Black Americans whose ancestors went through slavery on that. So we were getting phased out in 2004, 2006. And so that's why I'm glad that we're bringing ourselves back, that we're here, we still exist, as the American descendants of chattel slavery, and we have a justice claim too.
So Douglas Wilder was is he still living? Are you talking about Douglas Wilder?
Well, there's a Wilder Foundation here in Minnesota that deals with like grants and other things too, or like health and things like that. They have they own property, so they're basically like a huge nonprofit, and they've done studies and things like that too.
But it's immigrant run?
No,
oh,
it's been here before them, So like a lot of things just in Minnesota they were shifting away from us, and then more recently, with help of some of the BLM movements and some of the stuff, we started getting the focus back on. Not taking the focus away from our immigrants, but still bringing the focus back to Black people and what's happening to us.
Oh, no, I'm very much for closed borders. Uh-oh. His camera went out. I see you, Black Pint. Let me give him a second to get his camera back going. Okay, guys, welcome to the live. Let me text him to let him know his camera. He may know already. This is Rich and Epic. Your camera's out. Hold on. Oh, there he is. I hear him.
I'm here. My fault.
Okay, where's your camera? Oh, there you are. Okay. So I want to ask you, so I'm trying to get a handle. Like, let me just explain how we got to where we are. We found a bill, and we found the author, and we did some edits on that bill so that we could have it be lineage based. Well, sort of, it was kind of loosely based on lineage. We got first consideration, and we put language in there that it doesn't trump what the feds owe us.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And then we worked with the author of the bill to get those edits in there. And then we got the bill to Governor Newsom. And in the 11th hour, Ice Cube pushed him or encouraged him or influenced him or paid him. I don't really know what happened. But right before the bill turned back to dust, Ice Cube and I think Maxine Waters, came down on Newsom to sign the bill. Once the bill was signed, that's when Governor Newsom got a few picks, and a couple of other legislators got a couple of other politicians, or legislators, whatever you want to call them, they got some picks. And one of our picks, Chairwoman Camila Moore, she was our pick, and we got her through. She became the chairwoman.
Mm-hmm.
We pushed that through. So that was our process to get to a study. Could you explain to me what your process was and what is tomorrow exactly?
So the process was we started the steering committee, and then the steering committee and the steering committee is always going to be going on. And basically the steering committee just is educating people about reparations and advocating for reparations, and also does direct actions and things like that. And it wrote the first resolution, and then that passed, and that resolution, those apologies I mentioned earlier, but then it set up a 1-year legislative advisory committee that created this ordinance, and the ordinance will be a permanent reparations commission. And then it also came with the report and the report basically says what the committee should look like. So it wanted to be mostly foundational Black Americans or the American descendants of chattel slavery sitting on the commission, people who have lived experience with white supremacy and institutional racism, residents of St. Paul, So those were some of the characteristics of it. Then it goes through the meetings, compensation, budget, and things like that. So one thing that just happened is it was going. They made an amendment so that the city council, instead of the mayor doing the appointments, that the city council will be doing the appointments now.
Oh.
And I was concerned about it at first, but now it's good because it's going to get us to hit the ground running quicker than it would have if it was left in the mayor's hand, who does support this effort and is doing great.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that I think that's going to give us, from what Council President Brennan said, give us a really strong commission, like the one we just came off of was really strong and produced this document. So, so now that that's produced, now it gets down to the serious part when we start talking about money and stuff like that and what it's going to look like. So that's when things start really, we start talking about money, it gets serious, so.
Absolutely. Now, is your city council comprised of freedmen?
Actually, we only have one freedman on there, and he actually hasn't even had a vote yet. So this was passed with the, I think we had 2 Asian, 4 whites, and there were no black. Yeah. So, and they passed it. Each one was passed 7-0. 7-0.
It was unanimous?
Unanimous. And right now, I think we have the votes right now. So this will be 7-0 too. But we need to, but now, I think I think it's becoming real to people. They're like, oh, wow, this is really going to happen. So, and I love our immigrant community, and most of them here support it, but there are some that are saying, well, we should have, so that's just, we should have a lively hearing tomorrow. So we do really need that support, from the reparationists here in Minnesota, but around the country, just to make sure that everything goes well.
Because, honey, I never dreamed in my lifetime that I'd have to fight Black immigrants to get lineage-based reparations when they've made it plain that we're not welcome to any part of that empty CARICOM. CARICOM has no cash attached. And exactly. So now you find out here in California, and I've testified to this so my audience knows I've stressed this at several hearings, that based on a 2004 to 2014 Color of Wealth LA report, that African Blacks were 60,000 liquid to American freed Black $200 liquid.
Exactly. Wow.
And although we had, I want to say 35% degree to their 45% degree, the numbers are off, but it's a free PDF. Our median income was $53,500. And African Black median income was like $115,000.
Right.
And Hispanics, with 17% of them being degreed, their median income was $50K, which was $3,500 shy of ours.
Wow.
So you have to understand, it's, I have to constantly explain that I'm not anti-immigrant, but I am definitely anti the government's weaponization of immigration to keep American freedmen bottom caste just because their capitalistic system requires it.
Exactly.
And we've taken this L for long enough. And so you gotta definitely get the grassroots, contemporary reparations grassroots movement on that phone, testifying on your behalf and leaning in.
Yes.
Because one of the things about the immigrants out here, we've got Pan-Africanists on that panel. We only made lineage-based reparations by 1 vote. Don Tamaki, who's an Asian, was for race-based reparations, as was Reginald Jones Sawyer, who is American freedman. And he was instrumental when he lost on race-based reparations. He went behind not really behind our backs, kind of in our face at the same time, created a bill to extend our reparation studies through 24, when we are clearly out of time, suffering the highest rates of homelessness, unemployment, underemployment, and having been legislated out of the state down from about 6.5 million to 2 million.
Wow.
He put through a bill. All of these immigrants in office out here signed to extend those reparations proposals beyond the election. Okay, you see where I'm going with this. Governor Newsom has already stated if Biden doesn't run, he's going to put his hat in the ring for president.
Right.
So Reginald Jones Sawyer was trying to get those proposals extended beyond the election, right?
Right.
And then he put an amendment in there to change the task force members at his discretion.
I seen that.
Every last Democrat, predominantly white and immigrant, voted yes to that. And so we had to move as a bloc throughout the country to get it vetoed in the 11th hour. And Newsom vetoed it. But I'm here to tell you, we got two Pan-Africanists that were definitely for race-based reparations. And when they did not prevail, Jones Sawyer moved real slick-like. But you have to understand that Ward Connerly is also responsible for Prop 209. He's an American freedman. Back in 96, they used Prop 209 to get rid of affirmative action for American freedmen, calling it reverse racism with the help of the immigrants out here.
Wow.
So you can't trust these immigrants for nothing.
That is correct. Yeah.
You cannot. We just had Nuri Martinez caught on tape, LA City Council, disparaging a 2-year-old black boy who has white gay parents. 2 white male gays are this young black boy's parents. And she disparaged this baby boy, calling him all out of his name and threatening him within an inch of his life because he was jumping up and down on the float. But the bigger story behind these slick immigrants out here is that they redistricted LA to make sure no black folks got on that city council illegally. And they've not done a recall. And they got one. De Leon is still holding on. He just got into a fight with one of the brothers out here from BLM. It's a nightmare what's going on because of immigrants. So I know that I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm for closing these borders. I'm for weaponizing the vote and socializing this suffering by voting for closed border and citizen first, Americans first, candidates only, party be damned.
Wow.
So,
okay. Yep.
That's why I am on that.
Yeah, definitely. But we're lucky here in St. Paul with the makeup of the current city council that we had, that they were progressive enough to understand and respect lineage-based reparations and move forward with it. And
the lineage base has been decided on. We don't have to vote on that.
No, it came up one time, but it was 12-1. And she wasn't even going against it. She just wanted to use the word African American. But we wanted to keep the term that you gave us, which is American descendant of chattel slavery. So that's why we kept that ADOTS. And it just going through everything, I still feel like that's one of the strongest. That's the most.
I am honored
that
you used the term that I coined. I am honored. I borrowed it from Ted Hayes, who is a staunch civil rights homeless advocate out here. And I felt the chattel was imperative.
Yes, it is.
Because there's slavery and then there's chattel slavery. So also you may want to add American freedmen. Descendant of U.S. chattel slavery, because American freedmen is constitutional.
Right. Yep.
So as a matter of fact, let me show you something real quick if I can. Hold on.
Take your time.
Family, y'all need to press the like button. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications.
We also taught when the California Commission came. Camilla also told us about the importance of the genealogical research that's going to have to take place too, and how that's education and restitution, and that component of it too.
Well, that's beautiful, as long as it doesn't cost the freedmen a
Right.
dime.
Exactly.
But I believe it's as simple as showing up with your birth certificate. If it says mulatto, colored, or Negro, or if your mama's or your grandmama says it, because of course Barack Obama and Miss Ming up out of New York got rid of the term Negro. Some kind of magical way they felt that we took offense to that word when it's clearly on my birth certificate.
Right.
But I digress. Can you see this? It's
yes. Wow.
It might be backwards to my audience. I really don't know.
No,
but this is volume 1. This is who we are, family. And this is volume 2. I got to find volume 1. But this is imperative. Why? Because this is constitutional. And when you look through this book, it's all of the Constitution relative to what our ancestors fought and died for. You can even see how it's written. These are the legal citations of what we fought and won for. The amendments and things of this nature to the Constitution. It's all in this thin little book. Wow. So I got to track down. These are forgotten. This is forgotten books. I need volume 1 and all the volumes, but this is your justice claim is tied to this, the American freedmen. And shout out to Be the Power, because they were the first ones to stress that we should deem ourselves the American freedmen, because this is who we really are. And this is why Black doesn't work. It's too flat. This is why African American does not work, because this way they like to mask their failure concerning American freedmen.
Yes.
And they try to pretend like the success of the immigrant in this country is shared. When in fact, of $3 trillion, 3 trillion household dollars that Blacks in this country by and large collectively share. About 14% share in 2.93 trillion. The other 86% share in less than 700 billion since COVID.
Wow.
And the majority of that 14% is Black immigrant. There's very few of us that share in the 2.93 trillion. So when folks sit up here and lie as if we've got all this spending power, you have to understand you're talking 3 trillion for all Blacks, the majority sharing in the largesse of that 3 trillion. And then as compared to whites and white designated immigrants who share in hundreds of trillions of household dollars that white folks killed, lynched, and stole the wealth of American freedmen.
Right, exactly. Wow.
So, yeah. So if you can get this in your language at all, along with ADOCS, you'd be doing yourself a great turn and setting yourself up for the federal reparations.
Yes, and at the state level, I wish I could if you look up mncompass.org, they just did, as Minnesota populations continues to diversify, data disaggregated by race can help to understand the strengths, needs, and quality of life of specific populations. So
I love that.
Yeah,
what's it called? I can type it in my chat to my family, my tribe.
mncompass.org.
MMCOPUS?
Yep. And so it talks about the Black population in 2021 was 423,656. But then it says foreign born percentage is 139,285. About 35.8% of the population here, of the Black population are Black immigrants. So like when we're breaking down, so that's why when you just told me the the wealth data that it's 3 trillion. So it's actually probably for us like 1 trillion or 1 point.
Oh, no. For the majority of American freedmen, it's less than 700 billion household dollars shared between us.
Wow. Yeah.
We have the least of that 3 trillion shared by all Blacks. Black immigrants share in the most. They share 2.93 trillion.
Man. Yeah.
To our 700 billion. And this is why African American does not work. It's flat Black.
Exactly.
This is why Black American doesn't work. So the Africans, like Obama, claim to be African American.
Right.
And the Caribbeans claim to be Black American. When it's convenient. Because most of the time, they're very much about separatism.
Exactly.
But when it comes to these reparations, they want to come under Black American.
Yes.
And then the African Americans who descend from slave traders, not only do they want greater wealth above us, they want the reparations we are owed. Why? Because nobody wants to trade places. Imagine once you procure your hundreds of thousands from Minnesota for reparations, and then your millions from the feds.
Right.
Who's going to be on the bottom then?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
and in their mind, they're looking at it in a hierarchy.
They're looking at what's about to happen.
Right.
That capitalism requires a bottom caste. And if American freedmen are made the millionaires they should have long since been, that means we got to trade places and we're going to be on the bottom.
Right.
The Hispanics are going to be on the bottom. The Asians will be on the bottom. So overstand about these immigrants. They'll play nice until you start talking that cashola.
Right.
And this is the problem out here. The Mexican Americans are already speaking out against it. They want to use these Crayola, wanton white supremacist talking points that they didn't enslave nobody. So they don't owe us no. And I mean, they just mad over the mere mention of 223,000 that's been kind of like thrown out for just housing discrimination.
Right.
They got 5 factors in which they are going to calculate harms. And their pennies are in a bunch over 223,000 family.
Yes.
They don't want us to have a dime. What they want is for more programs that they give with the left and take away with the right, like affirmative action. So they'll be nice, but understand when you start talking and demanding that money, you're going to see their Crayola, wanton white supremacists rear its ugly head.
Yes, absolutely.
So don't get too comfortable that they were agreeable to a task force in a couple of hearings, okay?
Yeah.
We are in the fight of our lives. When you sit up here and you reflect on how all the Democrats and one Republican voted yes to extending the proposals when we're suffering in every metric out here, they voted to extend it beyond the elections. How much harder is it going to be to get them to sign off on cash to make American freedmen whole out here?
Yeah.
So I just don't want you to get blindsided by what's about to come.
Right.
But nobody wants to trade places. And they realize that when we're repaired, to the degree that we are owed, immigrants and whites are trading places. We're going to be sitting high up. And
Indeed.
that's why it's taken 500 years to get us repaired. So with that being said, I know it's late your time. You've got an early morning appointment for this hearing. I do pray, because I'm going to promote the show after we conclude for tomorrow so people can see. My people like to see what's happening in these hearings. I hope and pray you guys have a live stream that you can share with me.
Okay, let me
you can share it in my email.
Okay.
And then I'm going to build the show out, and then I'm going to stream it like I do the California Task Force hearings so that my family all over the country can see this.
Awesome.
I want my tribe, listen, I'm going to be sharing this with about 50 different reparations orgs in my race book. I need y'all to do the same because I don't know which of those subscribers are actually in Minnesota and can actually make it there live.
That would be great.
I bet they don't even know what's going on, just like out here. Am I right, Trahern? Are you expecting a large turnout tomorrow?
Yep, and we got a snowstorm coming in too. So I just sent you the link where people, if they want to talk, if they want to say something, they have to register before noon Central Time here in St. Paul.
Oh, so what time is your hearings tomorrow?
At 3:30 p.m. Central. See at Central Time. So maybe around 12 there.
Are you 2 hours ahead of the PST or one?
Yeah, we're 2.
Okay, so 3:30 your time is 1:30 my time.
Yeah.
Okay, you can put that in the chat, okay, for them. The one where they can participate.
Yeah, and I sent it to the email too.
Oh, did you?
Because the links aren't going to show up in here, but if you the one I sent you, the link to like where the live stream will be, and if people want to call in and voice their support and then also talk about making sure it's lineage based and
okay, so read me the number because I'm going to chat it to my people right now.
Okay.
To testify. Hold on 1 second. To give public comments.
You can email council at ci.stpaul.mn.us.
You're going way too fast, darling. Okay.
No,
Email council what? Slow down.
Council at CI.
Wait, I'm sorry. Council as in city council?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Typo. Council at
CI.
dot
St. Paul, ST Paul. Dot MN. .us.
US?
Yeah. Or council hearing at ci.stpaul.mn.us.
Okay, hold on. Or council hearing at ci.stpaul.mn.us.
Yes.
That's to give public comments, and you have to register.
Or leave a voicemail at.
Or leave a voicemail at
651
266
6805.
6805. All before 12 noon your time?
12 p.m. Central, yeah.
Okay, family, coming your way. That's your action item number 1. It's sending it now. It's in the chat. For those of you watching on Twitter and Facebook, you have to come to ScrewTube to look at the chat and pick that message up. And then I'm going to share it on all my other social media outlets. And I need you guys to make this go viral. We need a huge turnout of support from American freedmen.
Yes.
Okay. So that's number 1. There was another action item where you wanted me to fill in a survey. Can we go? I'm going to go through it because I can't find where to fill the survey in, and I need my people to have a visual. So let me share that website. You may have to read it to me.
Okay.
Okay. What's the website?
www.stpaulrecoveryact.com. But St. Paul spelled out too.
Oh, thank you for that. Okay, let me share the screen and we can all go through it together. This is how you got to do it. When you give Listen, we did our own call to action because this stuff gets buried, and if people don't see it right away, their attention span is very short. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to walk through how to fill in the survey.
Thank you so much.
Oh, honey, yes, this is what we do. This is why they support the channel, so that we can all link up and help each other get it done. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so I'm back over here. Uh-oh, is there an echo?
Is it? Not for me.
Why am I hearing an echo? Oh. Okay. Oh, Lord. Okay, so for some reason when I brought this up, I'm hearing an echo. Can you mute until I ask you a question and then you speak? Or just walk me through. I'm
Okay.
going to mute.
So where it says reparations survey,
Hold on.
so where it says reparations survey, yep, if you click on that, but then there's a lot of information that you got to read through. But we, you know, us reparationists, we know all that information. So you just scroll all the way to the bottom. Keep going. Yep, and it goes through the history. But when you go to the bottom, there's going to be a button that says next. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to fix that too. And when you click on next, then the survey starts.
Okay, family. So when you get to the bottom of this, if you can mute real quick, Trahern. When you get to the bottom, you have to come inside that gray bar on that pink sheet, because you're going to be looking for next at the very bottom of the page. This was hidden for me. I was looking for some time for that next button, and I never saw that until now. So be mindful. You have to come off that far right gray bar and go inside to the pink form and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then you see the next button. I'm going to mute now, Trahern, as I go through this live with my viewers, okay? You can open your mic.
And so we call it a survey, but it actually, like when you're doing it in person with people, it's almost like an intake, because it could spark a beautiful conversation too. And it's a good way for us to start having a conversation about lineage-based reparations with people in our community. So the first questions are they're more like demographic questions on the first page, your age, and how you culturally identify. It would be the second question. Yep, if you could scroll down. And then I have to grab my charger real quick. But yeah, if you could go down, then if you can yeah, so the first page is more about demographics and then how you culturally identify. And then can you scroll down?
Okay, I was going to fill in these questions right here. I was going to fill in these questions.
Oh, okay. Take your time. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to show them everything.
Good. Yeah.
I'm going to mute while I fill it in. You guys watch what I'm doing.
I'm gonna mute so you can talk.
Okay, thanks. When I'm done with this form, we should be okay. Okay, family. So, Trahern, you guys have got to clean this up because it's very confusing. The language says it's not reading correctly. It says that believe was initially enriched by enslavement of blacks, and that mostly white Americans through the of white supremacy benefited. They're going to have to clean this up. And then this one says that believe reparations in any form will ever be paid. I think they're asking if I believe reparations will ever be paid. I'll say yes, it's inevitable. Then we have, since the brutal killing of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police, the racialized oppression of Black Americans has come into starker view. Uh-oh, y'all not seeing this, are you? Hold on, family. I'm going to close that out. Okay, sorry, guys. Let's start it from the top. So they're asking me my age group here. Okay, Lord have mercy. Okay, so you see how I'm going inside the bar to the pink sheet and clicking on next. Now take the outside gray bar and go back up. It looks like it saves some of my responses. It says what's my age group? I'm in 30 to 64. How do you racially, culturally identify? Check all that apply. I'm Black, African American, descendant of U.S. chattel slavery. That's beautiful right there. If you guys are going to change this, put American freedman, Black American freedman, descendant of U.S. chattel slavery, Trahern, if you guys are going to change this form. What political party affiliation do you mostly identify with? I'm an independent. Where do I live? In the state of California. So we're going to go next. Okay. And we're going to go back to the top. Okay. It fixed itself. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was because I was on a different form. Do you believe that America was initially enriched by the enslavement of blacks and that mostly white Americans through the early doctrine of white supremacy benefited most? Definitely, yes. Do you believe that reparations in any form will ever be paid? Yes, it is inevitable. Since the brutal killing of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police, the racialized oppression of Black Americans has come into starker view. The City Council of St. Paul, in promoting healing and repair, has recently passed a resolution to create a Slavery Reparations Commission to examine how to repair the wrongs. Is the City of St. Paul on the right track, and should other bodies of government do the same? Yes. What forms do you think reparations should take? Check all that apply. Direct cash payment, free higher education, guaranteed employment, business development, free housing, significant reforms in criminal justice that include the release of political prisoners and community members unfairly incarcerated, direct neighborhood investments that improve African American quality of life, relief from all forms of taxation and debt forgiveness. For those interested, support to trace. If you can mute your mic, I'm getting feedback, Trahern. For those interested, support to trace
This is a
ancestry.
very important question.
Huh? Oh, that's better, Trahern. I don't know what happened, what you did, but I don't hear the feedback if your mic is open. I can't see you because I'm over here reading and scrolling. Trahern? You can speak. Open your mic and talk to me. Okay. He'll come back. For those interested to support to trace ancestry and perhaps move to Africa, mandatory African American history at all levels of education, a combination of all the above. I'm going to put right here a moratorium on legal immigration. What's the word I'm looking for? Close the borders, send the illegals home. Throughout the country, systemic discrimination was perpetrated through redlining and racial covenants, limited access to housing opportunity, environmental injustice, and the removal of St. Paul's Rondo neighborhood, the center of St. Paul's African American business, residential, spiritual, and cultural life, for the construction of Interstate 94. What type of localized redress should be implemented to support the restorative justice of the historic Rondo community? Check all that applies. Provide proper compensation to Rondo legacy families for lost that were, that should be LOSS, that were poorly compensated for at the time of I-94's construction. Yes. Support housing and business opportunities for Rondo descendants and other African Americans to restore a vibrant, supportive neighborhood fabric and business district. Yes. Concentrate investments that support and lift up Rondo's history and internal cultural assets. Yes. Oh, I hear the feedback again. I don't know what you did different. Irrespective of slavery descendants being part of America for over 400 years, researchers find that the middle Black family has a net worth of $4,160, while the middle white family has a worth of $140,600. Under 13% of the nation's population, Blacks collectively own less than 3% of the country's wealth. If current trends persist, it will take 228 years for Black wealth to catch up to white wealth. How significant would you say is the lingering effect of slavery, ongoing oppression, and discrimination on the low wealth status of Black Americans today? Mark, very significant, family. You guys should mark this up the way I'm doing it, okay? Who do you think should be held accountable for the institution of slavery and the generations of oppression experienced by Black Americans? Check all that apply. Government institutions that had a role to play, corporations, religious institutions, white families, educational institutions, medical institutions, African nations who contributed to the enslavement of Africans, Black families who owned slaves, Native American nations who owned slaves. Okay? Should Blacks who have migrated to America also receive reparations? No. In the previous question, should Blacks who have immigrated to America also receive reparations? Please explain the selection you made. Black immigrants of the 3 trillion household dollars shared by all Blacks in the U.S., Black immigrants, by and large, share 2.93 trillion. American freedmen share less than 700 billion since COVID. Our ancestors fought for Black immigrants who now who've been made American before us. Black immigrants being in this country is their reparations. What overall thoughts do you have on this issue? Oh, maybe that's where that should go. I think I'm going to put that on the next line, family. Our ancestors fought for Black immigrants who've been made American before us. Black immigrants being in this country is their reparations. Next. So you guys have homework tonight. It's almost over. Check all that apply and please include your contact information for follow-up. My organization would like to have a presentation on this issue. My organization may be able to provide a presentation stipend to donate to your cause. Well, no. I and or my organizational members would be willing to contact elected officials to encourage their support of this issue. I and or my organization members would volunteer time in support for this issue. Add us to your mailing list. I personally would like to make a financial contribution in support of this issue. I could do that. I personally and or my organization would be open to raising funds amongst our network in support of this issue. Oh, no. I got my own work out here, y'all. I can make a donation. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing at this point, guys, because I don't want all of the world to see my personal information on this page, okay? But you get the idea, right? You get the idea. Okay. Hi, Miss Powell. Antoine Foster, Pi 180, Black Pint. Welcome to the live, guys. I'll be right over. Miss Powell asked, who are Rondo descendants? Can you share about that, Trahern?
So Rondo, my mom's a Rondo descendant. My uncles and families are Rondo descendants. The Rondo neighborhood was a predominantly Black neighborhood that had, like other places around the country, they ran the freeway right through the heart of where these Black homes was, where these black businesses were, and then gave them pennies on the dollars. Not only that, there were racial covenants in place. There's a movie called Jim Crow of the North, and it talks about how Jim Crow was actually exported from Minnesota to the South. So Jim Crow was, they had these racial covenants that said you couldn't sell houses to Black people too. So they pushed us out of our homes, and then we couldn't buy houses where we wanted to, even if we could afford, even if you worked at Ford, or you worked at Gillette, or you worked at 3M, you still were. And Jacob Frey, they have a map. This is from Minneapolis, but it's called Negro Slum. And basically that's where Black people were forced to live no matter what their income level was too. So, yeah. But the Rondo neighborhood was a historically Black neighborhood with Black businesses. And then they had different places that they could have ran that freeway through, but they ran it straight through our neighborhood, the Black neighborhood in St. Paul. So we've, since like the early 80s, we've had a Rondo Days parade, and it's called Remember Rondo. You know, the community would come back together and still do that. Shout out to Bruce Dixon and Barack. We used to love having great conversations about reparations with the late, great Bruce Dixon. And that's when I was having to sharpen up my saw on lineage-based reparations while I was in the Green Party. Mad love for Bruce Dixon and all those who worked with him in the past.
So for those of you who aren't reading, he's responding to O.L. Griffin, Green Party during Bruce Dixon days, and A. Baraka. Is that Amiri Baraka?
No, I think he's talking about Baraka, who ran with vice president with Jill Stein.
Oh, yes.
2016, yeah.
I voted for them.
Yeah, they're both great though. And Jill supports reparations. It's just when we started coming in, lineage, that new lineage was very new at that time. When I first got into the Green Party like that.
Well, if you can spare me a few more minutes, I'm going through the most pertinent comments and reading others. Anonymous says, yes, please keep up the good work. Lineage-based reparations is the only true way. Black Pint says, we need to get some factories to produce the things we buy.
Absolutely.
Is that anywhere in the plans?
That I think we definitely want to strengthen up our Black business community here in Minnesota for sure. And
what percent of Black-owned businesses do you have, and which percent have employees?
That goes back to what you just said. So I don't want to say, like we have a lot of Black businesses, but when you're talking about the American descendants of chattel slavery, that's a different component. And I would say probably most Black businesses would have no more than 3 employees, I would say. And then
mostly Black immigrant owned and run and operated, right?
Yeah, the majority, So we're trying to get something where you have a Black business district on Selby, and we do have some developer, and then there's a stretch of businesses on the east side on Arcade that are Black American or descendants of slavery. But along Snelling, that's more like an African business district, and it's thriving. It's not under threat. We have one last on University where we had the historic Northern Lights record store. Is about because they just built a stadium, so that a soccer stadium. So they're about to buy that last district on University, and we'll see what happens with that. I thought it should have came under historical preservation because of how long it's been there and stuff like that.
Absolutely, I agree. Queen Yasmin, welcome, fam. Wow, Maxine Waters. Yeah, Maxine Waters, but rumor has it, that was the one favorable thing that she's done for American freedmen out here. Okay, she didn't follow through with getting the CIA brought up on charges for their war on drugs that she discovered and exposed. No follow through on that. That just kind of fell by the wayside. Wow. Akin to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
Absolutely. And just to follow up with that, this piece of legislation is like, I would say there's an effort in Brooklyn Center that's not reparations, but it's some policing legislation. But these are the only 2 pieces of legislation to really come out of Minnesota to address what happened to George Floyd. That has really passed and it is moving forward. But our George Floyd Policing Act, qualified immunity, a database of killer cops, there's a grant program that gives weapons from the Pentagon to local police departments. We've brought forth like 10 police and accountability bills, and they haven't passed. So, but this one is the one that's moving forward. So, out of all of that, police station burning down, just all the damage that happened here. We're still moving their feet very slow. But we feel like this is the most important legislation to come out. That this is the legislation that should come out of the George Floyd rebellion.
I'm going to also include, let me do that now. I want to include enforced protections exclusively for Black American freedmen, descendant of U.S. chattel slavery. Because I don't believe we're going to have any peace once we're restored to the degree that we are owed. I believe that they're going to recreate Tulsa on us. And I need everybody to go to jail, down to babies, if they come for us, like they did for the other 50 Black Wall Streets that we had established.
Mm-hmm.
I need not just protection, but it needs to be enforced.
Absolutely.
And I love that part that we can leave the country with our reparations. I love that part in your survey, that one of those questions had that, one of those check boxes had that as an option.
Yeah.
That we can get the hell up out of here once we get our reparations so we can be in peace for the first time in 500 years.
Exactly.
Ms. Powell has a question for you. To Trahern, have you submitted edits to change the eligibility class group from ADOS to the legislative political identifier as American freedmen? If not, are you considering that action? I think he is now, Ms. Powell. I actually have been in exchange with him about that, and I showed him, dun, dun, dun. All of the amendments, well, some of them, are in volume 2 of Forgotten Books, The American Freedman. It's very thin, but the writing is very small, as you can see. Trahern, did you want to answer?
Yeah, but I do want us to have a conversation about it and see, go back and look at, like you were looking at it, like look at what the function of that was at that time and what we need today. Because we were coming straight out of slavery, and we're still coming out of that, but I think we have different needs today than we did right after slavery. So I think, just some of that, and then there's other, if you look at the Trail of Tears, and they brought their slaves with them, those slaves were classified themselves as freedmen, and then they had a justice claim against those who brought them there. So just like really going through some of that and understanding that, so that we're just so that there's no confusion with our justice claim with any other group. But I definitely support that.
I'm going to, if it's okay, Ms. Powell, I'm going to give, and you may already have it. You know a son, don't you?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Do you have her information?
I'd have her email address, yes.
Well, I highly recommend you be in touch with her, because she can make the case for why you need to definitely include American freedmen in the way you identify. She can do a better job of explaining the why behind that than me, because I think the American freedman is our delineation from the 5 tribes and what is owed to those freedmen.
Okay.
But she does a better job of explaining it than me. So please reach out to her when you get a window. Hi, Gwen XOXO. Thank you for joining the live. I see you, Yaira. Okay.
And I just, again, Miss Powell, Dawn Page, you, Tara, I mean, I knew a lot before I met you, but just being able to come together and us sharpen each other's and move away with the best ideals to put forth the best reparations proposals in the country has been an honor for me, and I look forward to us continuing this work until it's complete at the federal level too.
Thank you, Ms. Powell, for all your hard work. Anonymous, you can watch the hearing here at the Reparations Perspective. I will be streaming it. Is there going to be a call-in number? I just shared that in the chat, so please check that out. You have to get registered via email or phone before 12 noon Central Standard Time tomorrow. So I would place those calls tonight. I would email tonight to get on the list. That's the way they're taking people who want to bless the mic. I will be doing my homework tonight. These are your calls to action. That's the way in which we're being asked to support, along with the survey, Anonymous. So if you rewind the archive once it renders after I close out the show, you can see me going through that survey step by step so you don't get confused like I was. Okay. So please rewind the tape or fast forward, just catch up, and you'll see everything laid out to you with respect to your calls to action. Now, from now on, I will be streaming all of the St. Paul, Minnesota reparations hearings proudly, akin to, because now Trahern and I have linked, I will be streaming them akin to the California Task Force hearings. Also on either Wednesday or Thursday, Miss Antonia Edwards will be here because Boston has a task force going. They are about to embark on their hearings for reparations. So what you get over here at the Reparationist Perspective family are all the original co-founders of the contemporary grassroots reparations movement. And so I will be following behind each and every task force that they are leading the charge on, because that's how I know it's truly reparations. Anybody else is a substitute or someone grifting and trying to do race-based reparations. So I'm bringing to you those who have been in the trenches with me from our inception back in 2019, and how we found each other through these social media streets, and we're helping, as Trahern just said, to sharpen one another to get it done for American freedmen all throughout the country. So tune in tomorrow, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, 2:30 Mountain, 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern to catch the hearings live. Preferably the link will not have as much buffering as the California Task Force hearings, and it'll be smooth sailing. But Trahern is going to get me the link so I can stream it to you live, and then he's going to share all of this to all his other channels, okay, with my permission. Okay. Mama Deb, I see you, family. They hire and trade with each other and not us. She's speaking of the immigrants there. Did you want to weigh in on that at all?
For years, I mean, when I was little, we had Mr. Tillman. He was a black grocery, he had a store. He had a butcher shop in there. Like, you can go in there and get fresh meat. And then I think Mr. Rubin, we had him right over by George Floyd Square. He was on 4th and 38th. We don't have that no more. We used to have Dr. Abrams, little small clinics where we can go in. I remember I got my booster shot from Dr. Abrams. Dr. Abrams went to my church. Dr. Crutchfield went to my church. We don't, now 1 in 6 doctors here in America are from India. When we go to the doctor now, I remember, and not to be mean or racist, but my mom had got scared. I'm like, but because they were all like East African. And then it was around, there was certain stuff happening that she was just kind of, but even going back to that study that I was talking about from 2004, I seen that reflected in the hospital. So they were pushing to get East Africans into the nursing field. And now when you go to the hospital, that's what you see. A lot of East African nurses and doctors, but you don't really see us. When I go to the corner store here, or to the store here, it's not, we don't own any corner stores or anything like that. And then we're not working in there either. But we're going there getting our milk, getting our eggs and other products. And then they're going back. They don't live in our community. They live out in Fridley, which is a suburb, or like Richfield and Edina. And then their kids are going to really great schools out there. So we're sending their kids through college and stuff. By going to shop at their stores, because we don't have one. We don't have our own grocery stores or stores like that to support us. To go get our own groceries, our own black butcher, or go to the doctor. So those are things. And then another one I would say, the health component, health. We need to be, so we have, and this, again, I love all my, because I know some of my local immigrant friends might see this, and I love all of them, but we don't have, they have Hmong Elder Center, Somali Elder Center. We don't have that. You know, they have Somali chiropractor, Hmong chiropractor, Hmong towing, you know, just all of these things, and nobody gets upset about it. But then when we start talking about Black reparations or something specifically for us, sometimes you start hearing some, well, you hear grumbles, you know. So those, that's why it's really important for us to be unapologetic about lineage-based reparations. And with this mapping, this mencompass.org that breaks down how many Black immigrants there are in Minnesota and how many, like how California is, we need to start saying, having it on our applications when you go to get a job, if you're American descendant of chattel slavery or not. When we're looking at issues like Section 3, so like they're building they built a new stadium out here, and that they use some stuff called tax incremental financing, which is like tax, they raise people's properties taxes and then build a stadium with that. But then we're saying how many Black construction companies benefit from that. They just built a whole new community in St. Paul in the Highland area. I mean, like from scratch, a whole neighborhood. Who got that contract? You know, this is creating generational wealth. That's why these initiatives at the local level are very important, because even if you look at the New York Police Department budget is $12 billion. You know, $12 billion. How are freedmen getting their fair share of that? So that's just how we're even looking at things like even going back and dusting off Section 3. I think St. Paul hasn't been doing that anymore. And that's making sure Black people get a certain amount of the contracts, construction contracts, school contracts, just through all parts of government. How are we getting our fair share? Because there's billions and trillions all through that. So I'm sorry for that little.
Oh, no, please. This is your hour or two. I don't want to detain you. You let me know when you have to go, but they've been busy in the chat, and they are my co-hosts, and they ask really smart questions and make really smart comments. Yes. So if you don't mind giving us a few more minutes, I'd be so grateful to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's just important for them to get their questions answered, and nobody can answer rather than you, Trahern. But yeah, you need to absolutely build into your reparations proposals that we actually have American freedmen schools where our history needs to be taught. None of this, denouncing CRT and all that bull crap. No, we need our history taught. Because we need for all these immigrants and whites to understand how we were made and legislated into the bottom of this Titanic as the anchor of this country's capitalism. So we need our teachers back in the classroom.
Right.
We need our doctors and nurses in the hospitals. They understand who we are. And so as far as those building contracts, we need a certain percentage. Whatever percentage you are in population should be the degree to which you run shit there.
Exactly.
Politically, you should hold certain seats. But what they're doing is pretty much erasing and replacing us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just happening where you are. It's happening to American freedmen all throughout the country.
Yes.
And so this is the way, if we're going to be doing state repair, this is the way you get it done and put the gate up around the things that you require to flourish and to finally be made American.
Exactly.
So please make sure, and I'll bless the mic tomorrow with some of these ideas and let them know what is needed. Trust and believe. I bring the fire and the smoke. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to put my email in tonight and work on my, I'm going to be working on my, how many minutes do we get to speak? Do you know?
I think it's like 2 to 3, so you got to get it in concise.
Oh no, that's why I write my stuff out, honey.
Right.
I'm a pro with this. I've been at this a good 18 months by now. I don't
Yeah.
lost count. I think
I've
maybe
been
it's
watching.
been a year. It feels like 18 months. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it has been June. Yeah, it's been
It's
about
been over
18
a year.
months.
Yeah.
It's
I
over
remember
a
the
year.
first one. Yeah.
We started, I think, June 2021. Wait, maybe it's only been a little over a year. Yeah, June 21, I think, was when we started, or May. And we're now in December. That's a year and a half.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Put me in work.
I know how to frame I'm gonna get it down in 2 minutes. Trust and believe me, you. Ms. Powell says, given BLM and the Green Party are large contributors to this legislation, how do you see ensuring this reparations commission will be lineage-based for freedmen as the eligibility class group? Ms. Powell, you missed the top of the show. That's already happened. They already got lineage-based reparations. That won't be the fight tomorrow. Could you explain again, Trahern? Is that true?
Yes, and then I think I got a question from this too, from some of our B1 brothers too, and I encourage them when from the beginning it needs to be written lineage based, so if there's no confusion about who it's for. So if we're involved in initiating the process, you need to say this is for the American descendants of chattel slavery, not African American or freedmen, or not. Don't use confusing terms. From the get-go, out the gate, just this is who we're talking about right away. And then, so that's the way that you ensure. And then sometimes people may try to come up against it. And the sister, she just wanted to put African American in it. She still wanted to keep it lineage, but we just was like, that would open us up to
flat blackness.
Yes, so we didn't, it was a 12-1 vote. And even the whites on the commission were like, no, let's just keep it how it is. And
so basically, Ms. Powell, Trahern honored me by referring to them as American descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. And I just feel so honored. But yes, I do want him to go back now that I've got an understanding about constitutionally how we're American freedmen. As honored and charmed and flattered as I am, I do want him to change it to at least Black American freedmen, descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. That would thrill me if he gets that in there and set them up federally to receive even more based on that lineage description, and to push to get that in the census, and we'll be able to have more resources come to us directly. So yeah, thank you for your question. Yes, family, please click the thumbs up, share, share, share. You guys know I'm being shadow banned. And thank you. I'm up to 1,600 subs because people are finding me because I'm trying to get on here more often. And I'm ecstatic about that. But we should really be at about 1 million. We are here until we reach critical mass and beyond, right? Because I'm going to always be weaponizing current events through a freedman reparationist perspective lens to edutain you on the importance of your activists and your activism and your advocacy in this particular reparations fight. This is for our children. This is for us, our children, our grandchildren, our great-great, and our great-great-great on into perpetuity. And we need all hands on deck. So thank you, Yaira. Okay, moving down. I'm just going to do the pertinent ones. Ms. Powell asked, have you proposed added freedmen to the terminology in this legislation at all? If not, why? And will you submit an amendment to the legislation to add it?
I think once the next commission is going to get started right away after this is passed. So we'll start bringing that up. And also, we have the Minnesota Migration Act because we migrated from the South to the North to find a better life, but still found white supremacy and institutional racism. And we didn't know Dred Scott and many others were here in slavery. Minnesota was founded by slave owners, by people like John C. Calhoun, who inherited 700 slaves from from his, Lake Calhoun was named after him, and he inherited 700 slaves from his father. Sylvanus Lowry was the mayor of St. Cloud, founder of St. Cloud, became the mayor, had a paper called The Union, which was pro-slavery. But he established St. Cloud. We had Aiken County, it's still named Aiken County. He was the governor of South Carolina when the University of Minnesota was on hard times. He gave them a loan to get them back up on their feet, but they didn't have to pay him back because the Civil War broke out. So slave owners, just like California, slavery wasn't legal, but the money from slavery helped establish the territory known as Minnesota. Henry Sibley, connected to the American Fur Company that dealt with slavery. Travelers, St. Paul Marine and Insurance Company insured slaves. That was a company right here. So our brother Christopher Lehman wrote a book called Slavery's Reach, and it details the history of slavery in Minnesota. So but it also, these people have connections in Kentucky and East St. Louis. And so but it's a great book, and I recommend it's good reading. So we know that even though so-called slavery wasn't in the North, slavery was here in Minnesota as well in California.
Absolutely. Yes, I can't wait to delve more into that on a future broadcast because, like I said, we're getting pushback from whites and immigrants that they didn't own slaves. This wasn't a slave state. Take it back to the South. All this kind of bullshiggity.
Right.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Just like these white northern slave holders used slavery and our oppression to build their states, the same thing is true for California.
Exactly.
Racists were definitely in charge. They implemented the Fugitive Slave Act to return us to our masters when we would run away. And also, these slave owners bought the slaves out west during the gold rush. And so folks want to sit up here and act as if while you didn't own slaves, you act as if you don't benefit from the egregious racial wealth gap provided you from slavery. Those are the proceeds from slavery, which is why you've got a greater wealth position than us. But you want to act like you had no role in it. Well, I don't see you signing over the wealth that white folks killed and stole from American freedmen. I see you living high off the hog all over the country off the proceeds of my ancestors' enslavement. So you owe.
And I don't want to keep you too long, but just to go off of that, according to Demos in the Brookings Institute, the racial wealth gap is substantial and is driven by public policy, and public policies are made by lawmakers. So the attitudes of Henry Sibley, Sylvanus Lowry, who established Minnesota's institutions, created policies and procedures, and according to Ramsey County, their own anti-racism audit that they did in 2008, it said their policies and procedures harm the people that society fears the most. And we know the people that society fears the most look like you and me, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Amir Locke, and the other people who are killed by the police, and who the 50% of the people who are homeless in America. And that's called, it's not because your baby's mom, your baby's dad, because you're dumb, you're stupid, or lazy. It's because the racial wealth gap is substantial and is driven by public policy. So, and those policies were created by slave owners who founded Minnesota institutions. So you got me excited though. I'm excited about tomorrow, and
I'm excited too. I'm gonna let you go because it looks like it's 8, 9, 10. It's 10:21. Are you ready to retire, or did you want to finish the comments? I'll leave it to you.
How many? I could do one or two more.
Okay. Oh, is it MN as in Minnesota, Copus.org, or MM?
I think it's MN. Yeah, that's mncompass.org.
Like for the Minnesota, right? Delineation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, because I spelled it wrong the first time. Okay, I'm going through. African Americans don't work because even white Africans call themselves African American. Elon Musk, right? Isn't he South African?
Exactly.
You're absolutely
Yes.
right, Anonymous.
Yep.
Thank you for that genius. Gwen XO gives me a compliment. I love Angela. She's on it. That sister is intelligent and healthy. You go, Angela. Thank you, Gwen XO. Okay, Miss Powell has got the questions. I question that data. You're saying Black immigrants are 35% of Black in the U.S.? That's BS. Who are these people providing this data? Who's funding them, and where are they getting these numbers?
No, not in the U.S. In Minnesota. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I don't
No,
know what
those,
she's referring to.
it says in Minnesota Compass, it says 35% of the Blacks in Minnesota are immigrants. So that's for Minnesota, but not for the rest of the country. And so like we're a lot of, I won't say how they get here, but there's a lot of, we have a very huge, strong Somali, and probably the biggest Somali population in the country right here in Minnesota, or East African population here in Minnesota. So this is for specifically just for Minnesota. And it,
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope that clears that up, Miss Powell. And what percentage are U.S. Black, American freedmen? Do you know?
So that would be what? 65%?
They probably have us lumped together as Black or African American.
No, so 423,600 Black population.
What percent is that? Do you know?
So 35% of that are Black immigrants.
35% of the what? 400,000?
423,000, yeah.
Okay, so you have a population in Minnesota of only 423,000?
Black people. Black Americans.
Okay, so the difference is us, which is 65%.
65, yeah.
Okay. Wow. I wonder, okay, but isn't that flat Black we're referring to? Doesn't that 65% comprise of Black immigrants and U.S. Black, American freedmen? Or is it just us?
The 65% would be the American freedmen. Then
wow.
The 35% is the Black immigrant population. So probably over 100,000. Let me see. Here, it says it right here. Foreign born. So it says foreign born. 139,200.
I see.
35.8%.
Wow. I wonder how they came up with that without having data disaggregation. How do they know? If everybody identifies as Black American or African American, how do they know for sure what percentage is American freedmen?
I would have to find out more, but this came out in this was in conjunction with shout out to Tawana Black, and then I think they did this with the Star and Tribune too, and that's one of our newspapers here. It says 22% of Minnesotans are people. 22% of Minnesotans are people of color, a diverse and varied group that includes those who identify as Asian, American, Indian, Black, Hispanic, and 2 or more races.
Yeah, I don't think that's clear. Go ahead.
What is data disaggregation? Data disaggregation means splitting large general categories into more specific groups. For example, Asian Americans can be divided into cultural groups such as Hmong, Vietnamese, Laos, Chinese, Korean, etc. Similarly, American Indians can be divided by tribal affiliations such as Ojibwe, Dakota, Lakota, Ho-Chunk, etc. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. They have yet to do that for us. So while I get that they need to disaggregate the data, I don't understand how they derive what the percentages are if they have not done that. How do you know it's 35% if you've not done data disaggregation? Did everybody receive a poll and ask how they identify? Did every Black turn their pages back in to say, I am Black American freedman, descendant of U.S. chattel slavery, or whatever the term you're using? I wonder, I don't understand how they figured that out when they have flattened Blackness in Minnesota and all over the country. How do you know only 35% are Black immigrant, especially when you mentioned Black under the 22% of the other people of color? So the Black is in that, the Black is in the 35%, the 22%, and probably the 65%. Because unless everybody took a survey and responded whether or not they descend from U.S. chattel slavery or are a migrant, then how do you know what the percentages are? You follow what I'm saying?
yeah.
It doesn't feel accurate.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find out more so I can get you like the exact information, and I'm gonna get a hold of Tawana too.
Okay, let's see here. Pi 180 says we need to send this to the Freedman mayor in St. Louis.
Yeah, I seen they got their process going too.
Oh, then I need to. Do you know anybody out there that's from our set, Trahern, that I can bring on the broadcast to talk about it?
I don't know anybody involved, but I'll look and see if I know any familiar names.
Okay, if anybody knows about St. Louis, and if you know that they are repping from the contemporary reparations grassroots movement, please put them in touch with me at the therepperspect at Gmail so I can bring them on and we can help them as well. And this is the last comment I'll make. Ms. Powell says the questionnaire is too vague. Using Black is a major problem. We must commit to specificity only. We cannot compromise on this position. I think that that's an excellent note to pray us out on. Did you want to make a comment to that? I'm sure you will carry that forward.
Definitely. This is our first survey, so we're actually putting together the statewide survey now. So I'll be just talking with you guys about that more before we finalize it too.
Very good. With that being said, Trahern, did you have any closing words before I let you go?
Things have been going really good up until this point. So there was a small hit piece that came out the other day, but I don't think it's going to have too much effect. But basically, what we were from, it's just really important if we can get those,
it's breaking up. It's buffering or breaking up.
Testimonies, and if we could just share the live stream everywhere tomorrow. And I'm just really proud and honored. Okay. I'm just proud to be a part of this movement, and I look forward to coming on. This program will be rebroadcasted on Black Watch Television on your.
Okay, family, we lost him. It started buffering really, really bad. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, we're going to let that rest. I'm just going through here. Ms. Powell, please reach out to Trahern and speak with him about the specificity piece. Okay. Because he needs to Ajamu Baraka. Thank you, Strong Flower One, for being here. Survey is on what website? Let me share it. We spelled it out in the beginning, but I will share it here in the chat. Hold on. Yeah, Ms. Powell, please reach out to Trahern and stress that those concerns to him. Because this is why it's so important that we reach out as soon as we hear about the reparations fights going on all throughout the country to give them guidance. So, yes, please reach out to him, Ms. Powell. Same thing happened in Minneapolis with I-35W destroyed predominantly Black neighborhoods. Antoine Foster. Yes, well, these are the things we're seeking to correct in the reparations hearings. So I hope you guys come back tomorrow, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. Tebe, I see you, fam. 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, 2:30 Mountain, 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern. I will be streaming it live, and I'll need my co-host in full effect. We need you guys to really share this. Martin Norwood, I see you, fam. Tay Bay, VFR3, Heesh WWP. Hi, Prentice Johnson. Well, Prentice, if you really want to contribute to tomorrow, all the information on how to get on that list before 12 noon Pacific, 12 noon Central Time is in this thread. So once I close this broadcast out, you'll be able to scroll through and find the email and the phone number to do that, okay? Is Ilhan Omar your rep? If so, what are your plans to unseat her? She gives funds to immigrants. Satra, great question. Great question. Great question. I'll flash it up there and he can meditate on that and come back and give us some updates. But this, yeah, Ilhan Omar has got to go. The largest Somali community is in Minnesota. %80 of U.S. Blacks are freedmen. Are you talking within the country or Minnesota, Ms. Powell? Satra says Minnesota is a big immigrant population. Refugees are sent to Minneapolis, Minnesota, largest Somalian in USA. Satra also says they have data on the immigrants. Wow. Okay. So VRF3 asks Ms. Powell, what does she define as Black? And she goes on to say, as defined by the U.S. Census, is anyone having lineage to the continent of Africa, except for North Africa, are referred to as Black. So more questions for you, Trahern. Ask him about unseating Ilhan Omar from Congress. Well, he's gone now, but I have posted here. He's going to be restreaming it on other platforms. That's right, Brian Barner. Thanks for joining the live. It's our time. Reparations cannot be stopped. No. It will be the reason people go to the polls and push the button for the Democrats or the Republicans, okay? It's going to get real serious come 24 because we're not taking our foot up off the gas, no matter the agents of chaos. Minnesota have those immigrant numbers. That's how Ilhan Omar is in office. Absolutely, fam. What time is that in Eastern? That's Black Pint, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Dear Lord, let us Black Americans stay productive and healthy. Amen. Gwen XOXO. Thank you, Brian Barner. He says he'll be watching. Yes, and please share the link. I'm going to build out the broadcast when I close this broadcast down. I'll be sharing it everywhere. And I need you guys to help me do the same, because we don't know of the people in our social media spaces who is actually in St. Paul. Okay. They may be able to get there live. They are expecting a snowstorm. So please do your homework tonight, fill in the survey, and actually get on the call list to make your public comments tomorrow. Prepare for 2 minutes, prepare for 3, but have a stopping point of 2 minutes in the event you get cut off. Okay. Ms. Powell goes on to share with Strongflower One, we have participated in almost 12 OMB listening sessions and submitted input to the U.S. Census. It has not officially been revised as of yet. She's absolutely right. The OMB sessions were about us expressing to the government how we want to be identified as Black American as a race, and Black or African American as a race. We've asked of them to have that be how we identify as a race, exclusively ours. No more immigrants can be tied to that distinction. And as far as lineage, we have asked of the government to put down American freedmen. It's epic, and we will prevail. Angelo, what does 1930 to 1970 mean when the task force said that? I think that they were trying to talk about harms and how to appropriate or assess damages during that period. I can't remember specifically. I do recall them talking that time period, but know that I'm working and multitasking and doing a number of things. So I don't remember contextually exactly why they mentioned that period, but I do know that they're seeking to calculate damages. And so certain time periods will be used based on the history of what's happened to American freedmen here in California. Now, Brian, it's not about no reparations, no vote, no tangibles, no vote. We're not doing that. This is how you've got a democratically ran Senate, because you guys are waiting to vote until you get tangibles when you should clearly see by now you got nothing coming. I have been pushing for my Freedmen protest voter strategy for closed border America first, candidates only, party be damned, to neutralize our most imminent threat and replacement immigration. Because if we don't show up to these polls in Obama-style numbers come 24, we leave the fate of our lineage in the hands of immigrants who seek to replace us, and Crayola wanton white supremacists who seek to erase us. So we don't have the luxury, with as many immigrants as we have in this country, with as many immigrants as they're trying to get citizenship during the lame duck session before the repugnant clans take over the House. We no longer have the luxury of withholding the vote. We must weaponize it. So please spread the word of my Freedmen protest voter strategy to any and everyone who will listen. We are out of time. Easy Acts, welcome, fam. The Freedmen grassroots seems to be slowly taking shape in the fight for reparations. Still lots of work to be done. Stay focused and positive, fam, at Angela Nirvana. Thank you, Easy Acts. I receive it. Oh, yeah, we coming up off this bottom. It's time to trade places. We've held this country down for 500 years. Immigrants and white folks, it's their turn. And with that being said, family, I want to thank you one and all for tuning in on such short notice. I'm going to get the link built out right now for you to share. Herb Saint has something to say before I pray us out. We should also pursue these banks for their discrimination. That is documented. decades upon decades of financial discrimination. Wells Fargo is in the news for even more unscrupulous practices. Yes, Herb Saint, we're coming for everybody, including Africa and Europe. But America is the big demon that we have to wrestle to the mat to unass our cash, because they by and large have benefited. The government at every branch has legislated us to the bottom of this Titanic as the anchor of this country's capitalism. And now the Democrats specifically have leveled immigration at our heads as the missile that it is to erase and replace us. With that being said, thank you, Brian, for admitting I made a great point, how you're still learning. And that thrills me, family, that you're open at the top and that you're even willing to learn. It just thrills me through and through. And there's no problem with learning at all. That's why I'm here. That's why I show up. This is my passion. And this is my contribution to the reparations fight. So continue. Each one, reach one, teach one. Thank you so very much. And Pi 180 finishes it off at Brian. That is great. We have to vote close borders. I love you, Black. And Freedom Strong, Herb Saint, as I do all of you. With that being said, family, I'm not going to detain us. I got to get this link built out prayerfully. Work with me through any technical difficulties. This will be the first time I'm attempting to stream the St. Paul, Minneapolis reparations hearing. I want you guys to do your homework. You've got your action items. Remember how you helped California. We need to wash, rinse, repeat this formula of locking arms all through the country to get this done for American freedmen. Remember, God, your inner Christ, and the ancestors have chosen you to take the torch until the victory is won. You have been charged with much. You treat the designation as valuable as it is, because you would not be here with me at this hour if you had not been selected to tell Pharaoh to let your people go and to cut the checks in the quadrillions over several lifetimes. That I know. And you guys show up faithfully. My co-host in the chat in particular, you never fail me. No matter what hour I go live, you're right there in the trenches, helping me to edutain the masses and to advocate for reparations. And I am eternally grateful to you beyond the words I have to convey. We refuse to give in, to give up, to give out, no matter what, family, until our last breath. This is what we've been. This is our assignment, one of many. So buckle up, buttercups. We in here. Okay? We in here. We ain't going nowhere until our people are delivered. With that being said, family, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever Freedmen and its allies are, God truly is. Because, family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. If no one's told you today how much they love you, do know that I love you, Black and Freedmen strong. Yes, I do. And until we meet again tomorrow at 1:30, family, 1:30 Pacific, 2:30 Mountain, 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and tomorrow's work day. And until then, family, I'm believing for each and every one of us a ton of peace, love, and reparations. Reparations, family. Yes. American freedom. here.